What's up, everybody? This is Cam Gillette from Smoke from All That Friction, and I got Matthew Booth from Disco Volante, and we're going to talk today about how you can actually support your musician friends. And I don't mean necessarily support in any inherently monetary way, but we'll dig into that too. What's going on, man?
Right. Well, it's no secret that it's a very difficult job to make a living and make a career of playing, performing, writing, and selling music. That hasn't really been a thing since the era of the album. And so, as a musician, as a performer, you're never really looking at a single income source career. Even those who are on the very top of their game, as we might have spoken about in an earlier podcast, are doing so many different things to generate so many different points of interest in their career, and all of that kind of influences what constitutes the net product that they deliver. And it's really no different down the line for from the highest level all the way down through the indie circle. And one thing that I think you hit on, which is really important, is that it's not necessarily just giving a musician money. When you look at what goes into a musician's career, the things that are required in order to keep delivering content to the audience, how do you support those things best? Well, that depends on the musician. There are some musicians who are really, really active online, say, and for them, doing things that will enhance their internet presence, maybe, following their SoundCloud and sharing it with your friends, or, putting them in playlists on Spotify, or if they stream, hint hint, following them on there. And for somebody who is pushing for a pretty secure online presence, those things can all be very helpful, because the better known an artist is online, the more credence it lends outreach to institutions that might be looking to book artists, or festivals or shows that might be looking to add an act with that sort of vibe. But it really does depend on the artist. If, for example, you were supporting how do you support your painter friend? Well, obviously, buying their paintings would be a good thing, in the same way that buying a musician's music would be a good thing. But for every type of artist, and indeed for every type of musician, I think there's a kind of a specific set of win conditions that need to be met, only one of which is monetary.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned before, music is one of the few popular arts that there's an understanding that the music will often be consumed for basically free. And as an artist, we don't have to like it, but we all know that, So, but when people joke about like, oh, I'm gonna give you exposure, yeah, that is something we need. Just the reality is, most people don't really know that offer exposure, don't really know what that means for us. And so that's the right mentality. Like, we do need exposure, but each of us will need it in our own way. Like you said, there's certain things that, for instance, if I'm looking to book another band to play with me or something, and I want to see like how popular they are, the first thing I'll go to their Facebook page or Instagram page and see how many followers they have. Okay, but I don't stop there, because frankly, if you know what you're doing, or if you just want to spend a bunch of money, you can get followers. That number is not worthless, but limited worth. What is far more
liable to suspicion.
Yeah, but what is much harder to fake is engagement. And by that I mean, if I see a page that has a lot of, like, they post stuff and then people comment, or at least even some likes, I'll take that. I mean, but like the more actual content that has a conversation between the actual artist, or at least the artist's page, and the fans, is a very good sign of an organic and growing and maintaining act. And for us to do that, we need you to comment and participate.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Don't just one of the best things that I think any artist can have is active engagement with their content rather than passive engagement. Passive engagement, of course, being listening to the music and enjoying it, which is wonderful, which is a big reason why we do all this. But the amount that it's worth for you, for example, to take something that I've written and show it to your friend who you think might be interested in it, that single action is worth so much in an inherently simple principle, but that has the effect of immensely compounding the influence, the reach, and sort of the power that one thing I've written has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say this is an important caveat. especially if they're young or introverted, either or super insecure, they're probably not going to be able to ask for your help very well, and they may not know what they need. They just need something, and like a lot of musicians, we feel bad for spamming our friends and family and whoever else in our life with like 10,000 show requests or 10,000 things. Like, we don't want to be a burden to you. If you're really into it, like, we want you to participate, but we're not going to force it on you. You know, obviously, we all have friends that, like, as soon as they add you on a friend, they just invite you to their band page and just invite you to every show ever and like try to pester you. You're like, dude, I want to deal with that, and that's okay. And honestly, that's part of supporting us. Like, I don't mind if you're like, dude, I'm just probably never going to go to any of your shows or anything ever. Dude, I'll stop providing you. That is totally cool. I'd rather know that than and vice versa.
Yeah, and if you want to just listen to the music and enjoy it, and that's something you take pleasure in, that's wonderful. I mean, that's a specific way of supporting an artist and enjoying their material, and you know that's perfectly good.
Yeah, I guess I just want to give every like a fan permission, especially like if you're not, even if you're famous, like talk to us. Like these are not. This is not some sacred dark thing that we're not allowed to discuss or whatever. We really want to talk about this stuff. Even like most of us really want to have a conversation about even what support means between two different people. Like, I mean, every two different people, it's going to be different. Every band and every fan, it's going to be a little bit different what they can support and what they
Right,
can.
yeah, and just as it's different for every artist, what they need in terms of support, what each fan can give in terms of support is very different as well. And you know, you can't necessarily draw a box and say like this is what makes a good fan. It's like, well, you know, the way that you know, however you most organically sort of consume, enjoy, perhaps reshare, and um, I guess just sort of authentically are engaged with this content is generally the best support that you can give an artist, as long as you act on it, right?
And this is the thing for me, and I know I'm going to eat my words periodically, but I'd rather have it and it go bad than not have it at all. Is critique, and I by that I don't mean like just come in with guns blazing and tell everything that's crappy, but like the majority of conversations I have after a show was, man, that was really good. I'm like, cool, this conversation. I mean, I'd rather have that conversation than that. Don't get me wrong, but like I want to have a connection with you beyond you just going high five. You know, I was like, most people have like that was really good, but what if you tried this one thing? And you don't have to have a clue what you're talking about. And like, and the artist may not listen to your advice at all, but like that allows you to have a bit of a stake and be invested. Like we want our art to be as good as it can be. And if you think you have an idea that can make it better, well, honestly, I want to hear it. Again, it's not, there's no like in the like certainty that I'm going to use it, but I very well may, and it's happened a notable.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you say that because like we as musicians, every time we get on stage, it's like you just in your head you're like, oh my god, like I've got to put on this show, and like, oh, maybe it's just me, but I tend to find I'm just like, you know, it's like you in your head you kind of create this oppositional relationship with the audience. And I heard something on radio the other day that really was kind of just like hammered it home, and it was like, you know, the audience also wants this to go well, and if they see something that they think could have gone better, I would like to know, because as much as part of the relationship between an artist and an audience must at some point be, you know, I have something that I want to share, and you know, perhaps you respond to it, or it kind of resonates with you in a way that we have this connection beyond words, beyond, you know, physical distance, beyond any kind of really verbal or perhaps even personal communication. But on the other hand, the way by which we deliver that content, if there's something that you know you would like to see, or you think could have gone better, or you know, just something that you think might be cool, it's, you know, there are so many ideas, and one of them's going to be good. You know,
Yeah, and
a lot of them might be
that
good.
stuff inspires me a lot too. You know, I'm like, I hadn't thought about it. I'm not going to do exactly what you said, but like what you just said really made me think, because like you said, as a performer, it is a conversation. As a content creator, it is a two-way conversation, but not in the traditional sense, because they both had different like like you don't really get to talk to an audience but for very long. That's just the reality of it. As a musician, you got to play music most of the time, which is a strange form of communication as is. And so you get to hear my words a little bit, a lot of my music, and you get to see me dance or whatever I do physically on stage. And then And then I get to see you. I get to see you smile. I get to see you look bored. I get to see you clap. I get to see you dance. I get to see whatever you're doing in the crowd. I get to hear you go woo in between songs, or like laugh at my stupid jokes, or whatever. And then I get to have a conversation after the show, which is basically tailored. It's an assumption that we all have this conversation that's tailored to what just happened. So that whole thing is just a weird communication platform. But that doesn't mean that there can't be like a useful, like, I'm okay if your signature is a little bit on the art that I end up creating. That seems really cool to me. Like, it's more of like a fingerprint. Like, imagine like getting advice from 100 different people from 100 different shows. And it's not like any big thing, but it's a bunch of little fingerprints that added up to this final performance and that you got to be a part of. You know, that would be super cool. Like, if I went to a show and like with my friends, like, I mean, I do it to you all the time, but like once in a while I get to, at least I feel like they are, like, I see my fingerprints on a few things that you do, you know, and that makes me feel more invested, you know?
And you know, that's not necessarily just in the form of musical advice either. A lot of the time I'll just be having a conversation with somebody, you know, backstage or whatever, and they'll say something really interesting, and they'll encourage me to think about what I just played in a way that I hadn't even thought of myself. And that to me is such a beautiful moment, in that, you know, your audience can hear something that you perhaps even didn't make the connection with yourself, and that makes you approach things going forward with a broader perspective, with more things to take in mind, and really with a greater sense of the meaning and the gravity, or perhaps not, or, you know, maybe you need to lighten up a bit about something, and you know, really a good meaning of what you just played is perhaps less somber than you had originally intended it to be, and just all of that comes down to just real engagement. It's like, yeah, I do value the sanctity of the stage. I do value the relationship between watching a performance and experiencing a performance, but then it's not really. I think it does best when you can also sort of take it out of that vacuum and give it a little bit of life, and give it a few real faces, just so you can see how it's playing out in the minds and in the bodies of the people who are actually listening to it.
Yeah, and to me, like, I mean, this is a big thing to me. I like to know how other people interpret what I created, because like you have your intention of what you were trying to create before the song ever existed, and then you had your trials and tribulations and limitations that like blocked you, and which and inhibited you and forced you to come up with whatever you ended up coming up with. But you're inherently biased by your original vision, even if the actual product doesn't match it very well.
Indeed. So yeah, it's good sometimes to just you know, reopen your eyes to what it's ultimately become.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a big thing. Is like, we want to talk. Like, not all of us, but I think the vast majority of us want to talk. And I'd say a question that's, you can phrase this however you want, but like ask for context and frames. Like, hey, that one song, I liked it. What were you trying to convey with that? And like, you can ask a vague question intentionally, because like some people are like, oh man,
oh god, yeah, that's like what every musician wants to be asked after this show, right? Because you finally get to like talk about it. It's like, oh yeah. So I want to tell you, like, I had this thing, and I just had to, yeah, you know.
Like that seriously, that question, we're like, yes, finally.
That's why I started streaming, because I wanted more of that, and I wanted to give people the opportunity for it to be in a situation where it's kind of a bit more normalized, sort of a direct interaction between people, and that really comes down to you know, there are some people who are very private about their work, but speaking for myself, and I expect something similar from you, is communication is a really, really big part of why I make music, of why I've decided to dedicate my life to it, in fact. Just, you know, music has become my main interface with the world around me. And the better I know what you, the audience, is thinking, the better I know how people think about what they're hearing and what they're experiencing, that just makes my job so much better.
Yeah, I mean, it's not trying to speak a foreign language without ever talking to a person who speaks that foreign language. Like, as soon as you're like, oh, I know Spanish, and then you roll to like Mexico, you're like, I don't know Spanish at all. You know, and then you get to it's a different.
Been there, believe me.
Yeah, and even in the theoretical versus the actual, like, we want to. It's really useful data for us. That it's like, all you have to do is have a conversation with us. That's really like what we need, and especially like friends and family. Like, I know you guys will, like, people will support their friends and family no matter, like, even if they're horrible. Like, there's that level of engagement, especially younger bands and younger musicians. Like, they're not very good yet, And most people are pretty aware of this, but just again, engagement, even if it's just your mom or something, but like having something where you post and somebody like likes it or posts on it, like that is such valuable like information for
It,
people
it
to
really
really.
is, yeah. And that, which I sort of again comes down to the best things that you can do for us, the artists, and that would be really like, you know, if you're into something, like if you go to a performance and you really love it, and you know you get somebody's information and everything, that person really wants to perform for you again. Like, you know, we really, really want to play another show for you or find some way to get in touch with you. And I know so many artists say like, oh yeah, yeah, like get in touch, like leave us a comment. And I mean, at least me, I mean it. Like, I really, really want to talk to all of you and hear what you have to say and kind of keep the conversation going, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and
So for me, it's like engagement. It's like how do you go from good first impressions to real conversations? And I would love to have conversations with all of you, be that through musical performance or be that through other media. But yeah, active engagement, I guess, is something that we keep coming back to.
yeah, and that part of the responsibility falls on us to like whatever your platform is, whatever your mode of communication is, let us know what it is, and we'll probably find a way to meet you there.
Mm,
You know, like Disco started streaming on Twitch recently. Like whatever your social media platform is, I will join it.
mm.
I will become good at it, and I will communicate with you. If that's what like that, because it's our job to speak your language. We just need you to sometimes initiate the
Hmm.
conversation.
You should insert Laurie Anderson's "Speak My Language" here. That's such a good song.
Yeah, I mean it's then we're demonetized for days.
But yeah,
I mean,
so that's one big point, just active engagement with the things that you enjoy. Or, you know, if the way that you want to be engaged with it is just by listening to it, maybe even sharing it with some people who you think might enjoy it, that's just as good. But kind of one thing that is always so comforting as an artist is to know that somebody's really listening, you know? So often, you know, especially like as a DJ, you start playing a lot of warm-up sets and you know, you'll play to like your rooms of like two or three people, maybe four if you're really lucky, and it's tough sometimes to keep that that integrity of your performance and really be all there and all invested. But it's like if I don't forget that it matters just as much to those two or three people that it would matter, you know, if it were three or four hundred people. Um, you know, I owe my audience that sort of respect that, you know, each of their voices and each of their opinions is equally as important. And and that relationship translates the other way around as well. It's like if there's something that you as just a member of the audience, you're not just a member of the audience, you're a very important piece of what we do and why we do it. And to that extent we really want to be engaged with you as well. So
yeah, I mean, and as far as like complete segue here, like basically every time you follow us or play something on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music or Deezer, Napster, or whatever you use, like we see that. I mean, we don't see it's you. We just see it's somebody. But like we get paid by you just listening to music for free on these platforms. We get paid very little, but any kind of engagement, that's engagement too. So just listen to
mhm.
us like once in a while. Like seriously, like consistent listens is what is like a huge metric that affects how people are ranked on these online platforms. Like
Mm.
like every album release, like I have this huge spike and then it just crashes down after that. And like what really is the metric is that consistent like engagement that we can have. So
Mm.
like God, throw us on a playlist or something is like it really does make a noticeable difference.
Yeah,
And we
if you like it, then listen to it.
yeah, I mean I know that sounds dumb, but like it's like it will literally give us money and you don't have to pay us anything. And
Mm.
it will give us exposure and you don't have to pay you don't have to get off your butt. You don't have to engage in any scary social stuff. Like I get sharing stuff's weird. Like I can understand if you don't want to do that, but like this is just like a little thing that can really make a noticeable difference.
Yeah, yeah, it's big. Well, it's big if enough people listen, and at that it becomes you know, that's a different conversation. But yeah,
I mean,
any
it's like
kind of
voting, you know.
engagement is.
But at our level, it actually is really big because
Mhm.
like we are it's a tough market to get started in.
Mm. That and so another piece for me is one of the most important things I feel for artists right now, almost by necessity, or maybe completely by necessity, is um, live performances. You know, as hard as we work to put out albums and continuously create content to distribute to all of you, you know, on CD or digitally mainly these days, live performance is kind of where so much of what constitutes like the meat and potatoes of our career comes into play. And, you know, of course, we always love to see people at our shows. Um, but if you can't come to the show, or if you don't want to, and there's something specifically that stops you from doing so, that's helpful to know as well, because that helps us make better shows in the future. Or it's like, oh wow, your show is at Thursday at 2 a.m. Yeah, I really couldn't make that. Then that's
Point.
something that we will go forward and
just like you were saying before about that, like we want you to have a really good time.
mm,
Like we want you to have an engaging, awesome, entertaining experience. We really do. If you can't find a buddy to go to a show, let me know. I will find you a buddy. Like it'll happen. Like
mm-hmm.
and just, but again, it comes back to that conversations of like, if there's anything blocking you from engaging, that's totally fine. And some people are just super introverted and they just don't want to come to shows. I understand that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but again,
that's why we put all this stuff online.
Yeah, like again, if the majority of people that we're into like just want to stream from their houses, I'd probably change my focus then, you know, and that's fine. Like, but I have nowhere, I can't reach you, and I can't do like reach out to you and make the stuff that is going to make your life better or potentially make your life better if I can't hear from you. So again, it all comes back to this. However you want to define engagement, it's like we want to talk to you. we want to be better for you, you know.
Yeah. Totally. And then when it comes down to, you know, really the monetary side, if they have a tip jar, it's always nice to get tips because, you know, you had to spend money on gas to get to the venue, and you know, you probably are going to have to pay a few people who played with you, or, you know, whatever. And that just kind of it helps to make it feel make it feel legitimate, but also there's a very tangible practical output that even small amounts of tips help musicians with, because I'll tell you for free, not too many people make a huge amount of money by selling music online. Even fewer make money by streaming music online. So actual just small amounts and donations, even if it's $1 or $2, if you think about, you know, the way that you might tip, for instance, a porter in a hotel, or a valet, or a waiter for excellent service. If you really enjoyed a show and you have anything to spare, that's always nice too, because it feels trivial. It feels like, oh, yeah, it's just such a small amount. It actually makes a bigger difference than I think people might give it credit for. And beyond that, a lot of the time, when a band is selling merch, be it like, you know, shirts or posters or even perhaps physical copies of their music, your ownership of that goes far beyond just the amount of money that musician receives. It's like when you have a physical product like that, something that exists in the real world with that musician's name or brand or music present with it. It's like that, again, just continuously compounds the influence or the amount of power that one item has for any one artist, I think.
Mm.
So yeah, merch is a big deal, because if it's something that you wear, if you liked that band and you decide to wear that shirt out and somebody sees it and asks you about it, that's that's another potential for a connection there. If you keep the CD in your car and you're driving a friend home from work and they happen to hear it and they really like what they hear, that's another potential for connection there. And it's like sort of for that one action that you take in this one specific thing you buy from an artist, the effect can reach so much further than just that.
Yeah, I mean, so that's like merch is like it's double for us. It's obviously a monetary. Well, first of all, it's a monetary investment, meaning we had to pay for this to get it here.
So we've already spent money that we haven't made back yet on it.
Yeah, so there's a monetary investment. There's also like we're trying to make some level of money, at least break even on it. But it's also, I mean, it's a sort of it's our marketing in a lot of ways too. But again, like it's all about like what do you want? Like there's a lot of things that we will not sacrifice our integrity for. There's a lot of things that we just don't we have no opinions on, and we're just trying to learn how to speak your language, to speak the culture that will resonate with you the best, to get these bigger ideas that we like our values across to you, our musical values across to you. And and some bands don't want to have these conversations and they're super immature about it. Well, screw those bands. Be better. But like for the most professional musicians, they're like, this is like we really it is so imperative to be able to communicate with you, and we really want to. And so like that if you want to support us, that's the thing, is communicate. That's at the end of the day. There's nothing that will be communication. If you want any particular band, and we'll tell you how to do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this was a short one today, but thanks for listening, and make sure to check out my band Smoke from All the Friction, and check out Disco Volante. Well, we'll catch you next time. Later.